Well, good evening, everyone. I believe we have folks joining our meeting. We'll give them a few more minutes for everyone to get on board, and then we'll get started. Okay, I think, is everyone on board? If so, let's get going. Good evening. Again, I would wish to welcome everyone to this Zoom meeting, this virtual public meeting for this MSD project. It's the Gc-06 Gravois Creek to Briarstone and Gates Sanitary Relief Phase 2 virtual town hall meeting. And we wish to introduce to you this project that MSD is pursuing. As we get going, I would like to go ahead and introduce the folks from MSD who are here. Myself, again, Steve Roberts. I am the project manager for MSD doing the design effort. Along with me is Craig Berry. He's the next guy, and Jennifer Mall. These are the folks that are going to be working with property owners to obtain easements, and they can talk with you if you have any specific questions about the easement. So with that, why don't we go ahead and jump right into the next slide. Today's roadmap, we're going to have a technology overview and ground rules, an overview of MSD's PC work, project overview and specifics, frequently asked questions, and Q&A. And, you know, covering this is going to be a group of folks from the Burns and McDonnell team. I would like to go ahead and have them introduce themselves, and they can take it from here.
Thanks, Steve. So I'm Allison White, and I'm the Burns and McDonnell project manager for the Gc-06 project. With Burns and McDonnell on the phone today, we have Ron Cruzy, who is our senior project manager and our program lead with MSD. And then we have James McAdam, who is the design engineer on this project. So we're all here to provide you with information and answer any questions that you have.
I'm Andy Likes. I'm the third leg of this team. I'm part of the public engagement team with the Vandiver Group. And we're going to walk you through this virtual town hall platform and kind of give you a little bit of background on Project Clear and it being kind of two different utilities in one. But we're going to start with how we're going to get the meeting going today. Typically in a public meeting, we're in person. This one is virtual, and it's a little bit different than a typical Zoom. All of the participants are in listen and view mode only, which means that you cannot have your mic active, you cannot have your camera on. They're all disabled right now. The way that we want you to interact is just toggle the bottom of the screen there. The Q&A button will pop up at the bottom, and you can enter a question in there at any time. We may ask and answer the question during the public meeting. We may wait until the very end. We'll kind of see what the question is. If they're more property-specific questions, we may do those online only, and one of the folks from the MSD team may answer that question in the chat for you. If you see that somebody has a very similar question to the one that you were going to ask, you can hit the up vote, and it will signify to us that more than one person has a very similar question, and that's one that we're going to want to get to first. So hopefully that is clear. We'll kind of re-emphasize that as more and more people join us during the meeting. As I was mentioning a second ago, MSD Project Clear is actually two different utilities in one. It's kind of like having the power company and the gas company as one utility. It's stormwater and wastewater. MSD has 7 different treatment plants across the St. Louis area, and we serve 1.3 million customers in 88 different municipalities. That's a lot of different service across the region. In all, 4,700 miles of wastewater sewers alone. I bring that up because This project is going to add to that total. We're going to get some new sewers online in your area. Already, MSD is the 4th largest sewer system in the United States, behind New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago, and then St. Louis. So we have a lot of different sewers to maintain. We have a lot of different service to keep up. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Allie from Burns and McDonnell to walk us through the next several slides. Allie?
Thanks, Andy. So as Steve mentioned, he's the MSD PM and I'm the Burns and McDonnell PM, and we're both here to answer your questions and explain the project. But over the next few slides, I'm hoping to provide you all with an introduction to the project, the reason that we are performing this project, and how it's going to impact your community. So the reason that this project was even derived, or the origin of it, is there are sewer surcharges within the area. So we are doing a wastewater project, and we are going to increase the capacity of your system. By doing so, it's going to decrease the amount of basement backups and the overloading to your sewer system, as well as eliminate one constructed sanitary sewer overflow. And what a sanitary sewer overflow is whenever those big rain events happen, like we've had here in the last few weeks, you may see that some basements get flooded, or there are actually overflows of wastewater into the environment, such as in creeks, streams, or rivers in your community. And by doing projects like this, we're able to increase the capacity of the wastewater system and reduce the impacts of those rain events to your surrounding community. So this is a pretty sizable project. On the next slide, we'll go over some facts, but just as a visual depiction, you can see that on the left-hand side of the screen is the upstream end, going all the way down to the right-hand side to the downstream end of the system. So we are going to be impacting some private properties and roadways, the most impactful being Sappington and Gravelway Crossing. Things that should be noted are that crossing there at Sappington and Gravelway, we'll talk through our construction means and methods, but it will be a pipe and tunnel construction. So it'll actually be occurring underground. So it's less impactful to the surrounding community, and you'll be able to, still utilize that very busy intersection. And there's another portion of this alignment that will be constructed in that pipe and tunnel fashion as well. But if you want to go on to the next slide, some general facts about this alignment is that it's approximately 5,000 feet in length, and it varies in pipe diameter from about 8 to 18 inches. Now, the depth of this sewer, it significantly varies throughout the upstream to downstream end. It can be as shallow as 4 feet or as deep as 30 feet. And the reason being is there is a fairly significant grade change from the upstream to downstream end. And we're also going to be removing and replacing a lot of this sewer in place. So we're working with an existing sewer that's fairly deep as well. So all of those things come into play as we work towards the final design. Now, as we mentioned, this is a quite lengthy sewer, being approximately 5,000 feet, and we're going to use varying methods of construction technology. A portion of this will be the open cut construction, or what I would consider what most people think of as standard construction for wastewater or storm sewers. That's where you simply cut, and you'll see a photo on the next slide. You actually see the physical construction occurring. But there's also going to be trenchless technologies that are utilized as part of our construction. And those are going to be those pipe and tunnel technologies that we discussed. And that's specifically at the Gravelway and Sappington crossing, as well as there's some businesses just south of Gravelway that we are going to be utilizing the pipe and tunnel technology as well. And it's just east of Westminster Drive. So the most common question that we get asked whenever we are constructing projects, regardless of their size, is, what can the residents expect? How will this impact me, my community, or my property? And there's a few answers to this question. MSD, like Steve mentioned, will be acquiring easements for access to private property for construction. Obviously, there may be some traffic impacts to your surrounding community. The streets that are listed on this slide, Emile, Sappington, Gravois, Oakwood Manor, Gates Manor, and Parkland are the most significantly impacted in the fact that there's either open cut or pipe and tunnel technology that'll be utilized during construction that may impact these roads. And there are going to be some parking lots that see some impact due to the construction. But if you go on to the next slide, it'll be a good visual. So as you can see, this is a quite lengthy sewer, and there will be phasing that takes place by the construction contractor. Sometimes if you're not in our line of work, it's easy to assume that this will all happen at the same time. But if you think about it, they can't, complete the construction of 5,000 feet of sewer all at the same time. So it will be phased. So this entire alignment will not be under construction at the exact same time. All right, so here's some photos of construction, and sometimes it's really easy to think of generalized photos or depictions of how construction may take place, but we really like to showcase how it impacts neighborhoods or communities that look like yours. And so as you can see in each of these photos, that fire hydrant stays in the exact same location. And before, during, and after, you can see that the contractor did their job. Obviously, there were some impacts, but the property owners still had access to their properties during the construction. And although there were some impacts that may have been, slightly burdensome to the community, at the end, whenever everything was rehabilitated and put back in place, it looked great, it was clean, and everything was as good as new. So the tentative construction schedule, it's on the screen, but just to kind of read through it, we're planning to be finished with design next winter, so winter of 2022. Our easement acquisition will be finished in fall of 2022. So once MSD has worked with the necessary property owners to acquire the easements, Burns and McDonnell will then take over, finalize the design and a partnership with MSD to get it all finished up, and construction will then begin in spring of 2023. Now, like we mentioned a few slides ago, the construction doesn't happen overnight, and 24 months is the expected project duration for this entire wastewater alignment.
So Allison and Steve, now is the time when we typically get a lot of questions. If you have questions, again, folks who are on the Zoom from home, if you just toggle the bottom of your screen, a Q&A button will pop up. You can type your question in there and we'll be happy to answer any question that you may have. Allison, one of the questions that we typically get in these meetings is, will emergency access still have access to properties if somebody needed a fire engine or an ambulance or any other emergency equipment?
Yes, so that's actually, if you want to go back, I want to say it's 1 or 2 slides to the map, maybe one more. All right. So that's a great question, specifically for this alignment. It's very common, and a lot of times there's 2 entries to a street. So property owners they easily understand how that can be the fact, but there are 3 or 4 streets that are dead end, and a lot of times property owners like to make sure of that fact, but the answer is yes. Emergency vehicles will have access to all properties along a roadway, and it's up to the construction contractor to determine the necessary means and methods for construction of how to verify that emergency vehicles can still access all properties. But some examples of techniques that could be utilized for that would be, putting in a temporary roadway or adding plates so that the emergency vehicles can still access all properties. And it's just the same way as all property owners will still have access to their homes or businesses as well.
So that was our next question. Will people be able to get in and out of their driveway? Even though you said it's going to be done in phases, will people have unrestricted access to their driveway when they're going to need it at any given time?
Yes, so you used a few words in there that I just want to touch base on in my answer. And I guess at a high level, my answer is yes. Property owners will have access to their properties at all time. But now with that, you will be notified by the construction contractor when or if your property may be impacted, specifically in a way that may impact your ability to enter or exit. So let's say if your driveway was to be impacted and the contractor was going to be putting down new concrete or asphalt or pavement of any type at your property, they may tell you, hello, we're going to be, putting in a new driveway tomorrow, so you may not be able to park in your driveway. However, will be able to park on the street or in this location. So there will be times where the construction contractor may have to communicate with you, and it might not be your typical access whenever there's no construction occurring. However, you will still have access to your property at all times, and it will be adequately communicated to you.
Great answer. Hey, Steve, one question that we typically get for MSD is, will there be any cost for the homeowners, or in this case, business owners, because a lot of businesses will have a little bit of impact with this project? Steve, do you want to take that one?
Sure. I do not anticipate any costs to property owners with this project. Yeah, usually if we do need to negotiate an easement with a property owner, we'll negotiate that, and there may be some impacts to your property. Let me just highlight something, and Craig, Barry, Jennifer, please feel free to chime in, but they will be visiting with property owners, and we need to, if you look at that slide, if we want to return to that slide that shows the alignment, you can see the alignment goes through a lot of folks' yards. Just look, for example, at Westminster Drive. We're going through a lot of backyards. And so we'll be acquiring property rights from those folks to build that sewer, and there are other locations. And so there won't necessarily be a cost to those folks. You'll actually be reimbursed for any damages done to the property. That might include tree losses and this sort of thing.
So Allison,
yeah, Steve, I think this is Craig Barry, right-of-way agent. Just to kind of go over what Steve said, there is no cost to anybody for this job. This is a MSD funded job. All the restoration costs are included by MSD. The contractor will do all the work. So just to reiterate, there is no out-of-pocket cost for any property owner with this project.
Thanks, Craig, for clearing that up. One other question that we get a lot, Allison, is what are those little dots that people see on this map that are on the screen? Are those manholes?
Yes, so a majority of our proposed alignment, which is shown with the red lines, that's the sewer. And you can kind of see it from here, but just take my words. They're red dots with a black outline. Those are our proposed manholes. Now, like I said, a significant portion of both the sewer lines or pipes, as well as the dots or manholes, are going to be removed and replaced in the same location. However, some of this alignment will be an entirely new alignment in a new location, and that's simply due to the fact that it's our intent to design a sewer that is like at the Sappington and Gravois crossing. That's the least impactful to the surrounding community. However, that existing alignment is not in the exact same location. So there are some portions of the alignment that we have straying from the existing sanitary sewer. However, that's part of the design process in an effort to make sure that we're designing the best wastewater system for the future of MSD.
So I wanted to put everybody's contact information up here one more time. Steve's contact information with MSD and Allie's contact information with Burns and McDonnell. For those who are watching live, you can have an opportunity to see this again on the MSD website. That information is down there at the bottom of the screen. If you have other questions or you share this virtual public meeting with your neighbors or your colleagues, make sure that you are able to email or call either one of the project managers, and they'll be happy to answer any of your questions. Steve, any final thoughts as we close out the virtual public meeting this evening?
No, I think you covered everything very well, Andy and Allison. I appreciate the folks who joined us. I see you have my phone number right there. I am feel free to call me or email me if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help. I think there might be one item that is worth considering here. There are some folks now, we talked about easements and that, you know, Craig and our MSD right-of-way folks will be meeting with you if we need to acquire an easement. There are some locations where our new sewer is in the same location where we have existing easement rights. And if that's the case, we don't need to acquire a new easement in that scenario. We would actually use our existing easement rights. However, we would define limits where the contractor can do his work, and whatever we disrupt, we would put back. Save landscaping. That is the one area that can be a little bit of a bugaboo, unfortunately. But to build this sewer, there could be impacts to existing landscaping where we have existing easement rights. So that might be an opportunity where feel free again to give me a call and we could clarify what's happening at your property, and I can let you know what's happening.
Thank you very much, Steve. Well, for Steve Roberts and Allie White, I'm Andy Likes. Thank you very much for your time tonight. We'll see you next time.